Hello, everybody, and welcome to Ready for It? The Actors Agenda.
Welcome back.
Welcome back. This is Mike Manning.
I'm Clementine Heath.
How are you, Clementine? A little check-in.
Good. I feel like it's been a while.
It has. Oh, yeah, because the last episode we did together, the episode before that, I did by myself because I was gone.
And then, last week I was in DC.
You were in DC at the
Creative Coalition.
And how was that?
And it was fascinating. I got to see parts of Capitol Hill with a really fantastic group of actors and creatives in the industry, like John Cryer and Brandon Hunt from Ted Lasso.
Mm-hmm.
And
Can you say Molly Ringwald was there too?
Molly Ringwald came for the gala.
Okay.
But she wasn't there for the Capitol Hill part.
Most of us say gala, but you know.
Gala.
No.
But they're basically advocating to keep funding in the arts and
That's great.
representatives in the Senate and things like that. No, it was fantastic. It was really interesting.
It's always easier when you care about what you're talking about. Keeping arts properly funded and available to the masses is extremely important.
Well, they've been doing this for 10 years. And so it's
So they have it down.
But I was like in and out. I was 48 hours and then...
I love that. I love getting on a plane. Some people hate it. I love quick trips because I have my little routine.
Yeah, you're
I
very
go to
good
the
at it.
airport. I maybe try to get there early and stop in the lounge and have like a cup of coffee. And then I go to the hotel and I have like... I'll put my phone down and I'll put like a Spotify playlist on and I'll methodically unpack and I'll like put my toiletries here and I'll hang up my clothes and I don't know, I
hate it.
It's like that gypsy mentality. I like to pretend like I'm just free of all the cares in the world for a weekend. Or
I just don't like it. I don't like changing time zones too much. My body doesn't like it. And I'm also not a fan of hotels. And that's always been like a weird thing for me if I'm on location for a film because it's just that I'm sleeping in a bed that like all these other strangers have slept in and things like that. It's just a bit, it doesn't.
If we're being honest, a hotel bed is probably cleaner than my bed. So
You've got a brand new one.
I did get a brand new bed.
You did get a brand new bed.
So maybe that's cleaner than my other bed used to be.
I like traveling. I just I feel the effects of it if it's like for short periods of time.
Yeah, that's true.
It's a little unsettling.
In time zones.
Yeah, that's all.
The moral of the story is that hotel beds are cleaner than my bed. That's fine.
Cut that bit.
Did you just...
No.
You shook your head at me disapprovingly.
Yeah.
That's okay.
No. Congratulations are in order for your Emmy nomination.
Yeah, thank you.
For The Bay.
For The Bay.
As a supporting actor?
Yes, Best Supporting Actor in a Drama Series. And it's cool because this year, The Bay is the first ever independent show to be nominated in Category 1. They used to have a category called Digital Daytime Drama, and they got rid of it. So now it's just all...
So you're up against the big
daytime drama,
soapies,
So
the big ones.
I'm up against
Days of Our Lives.
Days of Our Lives, my old alma mater show.
Yeah.
General Hospital, Young and the Restless.
So you're
Bold
in
and the
good company
Beautiful.
there. It's great that you got nominated.
Yeah, thank you. This isn't just saying, oh, I'm so surprised. I'm trying to whatever. I'm genuinely surprised because
Me too.
I'm
kidding. I'm joking.
I appreciate your honesty.
I'm joking.
No, I just didn't. I'm up against some really tough competition, so I didn't really expect it to happen, and
A lot
was
of
really pleasantly
considerations
surprised.
were put into your character's storyline though for this last season that you got nominated for.
I do have to say, yeah, Gregory and Wendy, they write the show, and they did such a great job with my character. And I play this guy named Caleb McKinnon, and he's such a sweet, what you see is what you get, honest, genuine character, which is nice to play. It's different than some of the bad guys that I've been playing recently.
And he does represent LGBTQ community.
Not only does he have an LGBT storyline, he has a positive LGBT storyline, which is nice to be a part of positive representation like that. And if I'm being honest, it's weird because this week I feel like for me has had some really high highs and some low lows. And I was just talking to you earlier about how right before recording this, I wanted to like go take the dogs for a walk. It just kind of gets me out of my head, gets me outside, gets me... And I think that that's really important to talk about for a second, and then we'll jump into our interview. This week we have August Maturo, and he's fantastic.
He's a great kid.
And he was a child actor. Now he's a young man actor, and he's
How old is he now?
fantastic. think he's 16.
He's a teenager.
Now he's a teenager, but I met him when he was 12.
He played your brother in Slapface,
my
right?
little brother in Slapface, and he was phenomenal in the movie. I mean, the movie, it's on Shudder, and I think a few other places now, but
yeah.
Shudder, it's called Slapface, all one word. And then before that, he was Auggie on Girl Meets World.
Oh, right.
On Disney.
Yeah.
He was fantastic. And then he's gone on to do a bunch of other things, and you'll hear about it. And now he's starting college, and so you'll hear about, I wish him the best on that and that journey.
College at 16?
Yeah, he's one of those geniuses.
Oh, okay.
And so now he's just super smart and got everything
Excelling.
out of the way, and now he's just living his best life. But before
you were
that,
talking about
other
stuff.
I want to remind everybody listening that no matter what it seems like on the outside for people, just nominated for an Emmy, and it's been great. And then I got some news about this other project that I've been working on for
Blood, Sweat, and Tears.
Project I helped write, and I've been working on it for over the past year, and I don't know if it's gonna happen, and it's a big bummer. And if I'm being honest, it's been really tough to
take the loss.
Yeah, just accept that it might not happen, or at least it might not happen the way I thought it would, and it's a real bummer. So I was in a bad mood. I went and took the dogs for a walk and cleared my head, and here we are. But I just think it's important to reiterate that in other industries, if you're working in technology or finance or whatever else, like, there are sort of benchmarks that you can hit, and you have a clear barometer on how you're doing, and it's regular work and it's regular markers of success. And I think in a creative industry like ours, sometimes you can work and work and work and you have nothing to show for it. And it, on the outside, obviously on the inside, there's growth and there's, working with people and relationships. But
as some advice, though, as a writer as well, because I know how hard you work when you're writing and you're working on your projects, I've had to put projects aside. I've had to put them in the drawer because the window of opportunity has closed, but it's never ever permanent. It's something that sometimes just has to go away for a little while, and you have to reshift your focus into other stuff. And then, everything in this industry, I find, especially with getting produced and what is in production, like, you'll see that certain kinds of genres and certain themes are explored on different shows or in film, and then it kind of goes away for a while, and then it comes back again, and then it goes away.
That is a good point. So what I think you're saying is that the industry changes, and sometimes things are in demand, and sometimes things are not in demand, and you have to be okay with sort of not running uphill all the time, and
you have to be patient.
Recognizing what is being marketed and what's being successful and what's not.
It's that weird, it's a timing thing, and then, like what you said, and it's also a patience game. But yeah, sometimes if you miss that window for whatever reason, it doesn't mean that it's final. You can,
No. I think that's true. I think that there are certain things in this industry that are within our control, and I think that there are certain things that are happening that are not within our control, and we got to work hard with the things that we can control, and then with the rest of it, we sort of just have to maintain our happiness and our sanity while we wait for the right time to strike and be successful.
Well, they say rejection is God's protection. Like, if it's not happening, maybe it's because your focus should be on something.
Yeah, maybe.
You've got multiple projects that you're juggling right now.
I do, and I'm going to finish them and then just take a big vacation because that's what I want.
Okay, well, we have that on record now because you struggle to do that.
I do have a hard time checking out. But you know what? Let it be known that if one of these happens, I will make time to check out. Until then...
Speaking of checking out,
check out our next guest, August Maturo. Actually, I didn't hate that caveat. Checking out our next guest. Okay. But yes, here he is. His name's August Maturo. He is fantastic, and we hope you enjoy the interview. Until next time.
TTFN.
It's the actor's agenda. Nah, 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 nah. It's the actor's agenda.
Hi, everybody. My name is Mike Manning, and you are tuning into the Actors Agenda podcast. Today, I have my friend, former movie little brother, August Maturo as a guest. August, thank you for being here.
Thank you for inviting me.
To joining us on the pod. I want to start calling it the pod. I want to be more smooth with this. I just started this podcast, and the goal is to sort of educate and inspire actors, entertainers, people that are either starting in their career, continuing their career, maybe getting back into it. And I just think that you're the perfect guest because you've been doing this for forever. I mean, since 4 years old.
Since
right?
I was 4 years old. How many? 12 years?
Yeah,
That's
12 years.
Crazy.
So you're 16 now.
Yes.
Are you driving?
No, okay. I'm kind of hesitant to drive right now.
Yeah.
And also, I'm just trying to focus on my schoolwork. I mean, just like one thing at a time for me personally, you know? No. Like the road is scary, especially in LA. You know, if I was in somewhere remote, I'd be like driving everywhere. But LA is pretty scary, in my opinion.
I would be in no hurry to drive in Los Angeles. I was gonna get a motorcycle when I first moved here, and I saw a handful of motorcycle accidents. Every time I would wait 6 months, and I'm like, all right, cool, I'm gonna get a motorcycle, and then I would see a motorcycle accident and be like, you know what, not for me. And
exactly.
Like 6 months later, I'd be like, no, I'm gonna get one, and then I would see another accident. I'm like, you know, LA is a pretty scary place on the road.
Yeah, I started doing my driving school thing, and the first lesson was this many car crashes happen per year. And I was like, oh, okay,
Start
that's
on
great.
A positive note.
Yeah, that's great.
Yeah. Okay, so I know you, and we'll get into all that. But for those listeners and viewers that don't know you, here's a quick little bio to catch everybody up. August Maturo is best known for his starring role in the hit Disney Channel original series Girl Meets World. Here, August filmed over 70 episodes. The show is nominated for 3 Emmy Awards for Outstanding Children's Program, as well as 3 Teen Choice Awards and a Nickelodeon Kids' Choice Award. Additional credits for Auggie include Teachers, The Odd Couple, Weeds, Dads, Bones, Raising Hope, See Dad Run, Suburgatory, The Connors, SWAT, How I Met Your Mother, 911, and the new Fox crime anthology series Accused, opposite Rachel Bilson, Jack Davenport, and Reed Miller. August made the jump from television to film in the wildly successful horror movie The Nun. August then played the lead role of Lucas in the Shudder AMC horror film Slapface. That is where we met.
Yes.
For that role, Maturo won the Best Actor Award at Grimmfest in the UK, and his performance has received rave reviews many, many other places. You did a fantastic job in that movie.
Thank you.
Born in Ventura, California in 2007, Maturo began acting professionally at the age of 4 after appearing in a church play. You're a spokesperson for food allergies. You have your own production company. So at 16, you've already been on every single TV show. You already have a production company. You're already doing charity work. I mean, what's like, how do you keep it all together?
I honestly don't know. I don't know how I do.
Yeah.
A lot of those supporting roles I did when I was younger, and I've always just loved this industry since I was younger, and I've always wanted to act since obviously it said the church play when I was 4. Mm-hmm. It was my first time kind of acting, I guess, and I was on stage, and it was are you smarter than a 4-year-old? And basically I would list all the capitals of the United States, and it would be like this like funny skit thing, right? And then after I got off the stage, I was like all mad, and I don't remember this, but my mom told me, and she was like, oh, why are you mad? You did great up there. And I was like, well, I don't want to be down here in the audience. I want to be back up on the stage.
Yeah.
And she was like, okay, maybe he should be in acting. Because people have been telling her like all the time, like, you should put your son in acting. You should put your son in acting. And she was kind of hesitant. But I think that was kind of like the kick starter of everything. And it just kind of snowballed from there, and it just got better and better, and I'm so grateful for it.
Yeah. So you said at that point you don't remember people told you the stories of 4-year-old Auggie.
Yes.
What is your first, I guess, memory on like being on set, looking around, saying, "Oh, I'm an actor today. I'm doing this." Like, do you remember that moment?
I remember when I was on Girl Meets World, I was booked at 5 years old, which is crazy, and some of my earliest memories from acting are on that show. And I remember seeing the poster for the first time and seeing my face on it. And I was like, wow, this is happening. This is like a thing. Like, people are going to see this. And that's when it kind of like hit me. And I was just like, wow, this is amazing.
Yeah. Yeah. So you have a pretty loyal fan base from Girl Meets World that have followed you throughout your career, and they still continue to support you, you know, whatever movie you do, TV show you do, on social media. Why do you think people connected so much with Auggie, with your character on Girl Meets World?
He's just a fun little guy. And to be honest, I actually have not watched any of the episodes since I've filmed them, which sounds kind of crazy, but it's like when your parents show people like your baby photos, you're like, Mom,
yeah,
you know?
Yeah.
And even more recent things that I've done, I don't really look back on them, but I have watched the first episode, and I was looking back and I was going, wow, how did I do this at 5-6 years old? That's crazy. And I did that for 3 years, and for 3 whole seasons, 72 episodes. And it was like boot camp for actors, basically, because it taught you like how to be in the industry. And it was like a new episode every week. Like Wednesday we would have our table read, and then we would have our run-throughs and rehearsals, and then on Monday and Tuesday was our filming days, and then every other Tuesday was a live audience, and they would sit there and watch and laugh, and then later that night we would get the script for the next episode, and it was just fast-paced.
So you would film, how many episodes would you film? Was it an episode a week? And then so you would prepare for the next week's episode
starting Wednesday
of that week while you're still filming that week's episode.
Well, no, we would rehearse from Tuesday or Thursday, Friday, right? And then Tuesday night we would get our script for Wednesday.
Gotcha.
The next
so
day.
there wouldn't be as much overlap. Okay,
there wouldn't be. There's not much overlap,
Great.
but it was very, very fast paced.
Yeah, that's why I was on a soap, and they didn't do that. They would give us. We would be finishing that week's batch of episodes, and they would do an episode a day. It was crazy on Days of Our Lives, and then they would send out the scripts a week prior. So I would kind of have to read the scripts just enough to know what was going to happen in terms of what my character was going to do.
Yeah.
But then I couldn't memorize until like the night before, or maybe 2 nights before, because I had the episode that I was doing
Before
that day. I had that
brain,
in my brain, and I couldn't make room for the next one. I would get confused.
Yeah.
And so I was just curious if that was a similar process. Okay, so most of us, when we're teenagers, when we're younger, you mentioned like the family photos earlier. I remember when I was younger, I was this awkward teenager, and I loved acting, and I would do theater, but I would always hate to see myself on camera. And so how do your entire life has been on camera? Have you sort of embraced that? Is it sort of, it's just your existence, it's all you've ever known? Or are there moments where you're like, I kind of just don't want to, be in front of the camera as August Maturo, maybe as like the character, but not August? Like, how do you feel about that?
Well, fun fact, I'm actually pretty camera shy, actually. And I think the only time I'm like comfortable with being on camera is actually whether it's self-taping or auditioning or actually being on set. And it's crazy because growing up, being on camera kind of gives you a little bit of like self-consciousness. Like, do I look perfect? Like, is there like a pimple or anything? Especially like teenager years, there's acne, and I was on Accutane for 6 months, but before then I would be breaking out and there'd be a lot of makeup, so I would be like pretty self-conscious on set because every little detail is going to be on camera. And I think it's just kind of transferred over into my personal life a little bit. But I think
you handled it pretty well. I mean,
yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, right before this, I was just like fixing my hair and stuff. But yeah.
I mean, that's human nature. That's human nature. So it sounds like you sort of embraced it, and you're like, okay, this is part of the industry.
Yeah.
I'm gonna share, I'm gonna share parts about the characters, or I'm gonna share my performances. But in terms of your personal life, do you try to keep an element of that private? Do you try to, maintain a level of like, okay, this is my acting life over here, and this is what I offer the public, whether it's on social media or performances. And then do you have like a little piece that you keep for yourself in terms of your personal life?
I think because I was younger when I started my acting career, I was able to distance the two pretty well because I saw acting as kind of like an escape, and like it was like sort of fulfilling my inner child of like, oh, I get to like make believe and play pretend and do things that I would never be able to do in my real life. And I still think of it as that. And that's how I was able to film Shepherd and Story of a Jewish Dog or Story of a Hero Dog and Slapface as well. And they're such heavy themes in both of those films. And I think being able to see it as make-believe is just an easy way for me to kind of not let any of it affect me. But I love just kind of like, like I said, make believe, play pretend, and
let's talk about that. Is separating it, because you bring up a good point. I think in The Nun, how old were you when you filmed The Nun?
I was 11.
11 years old. You filmed The Nun, and you are handling some pretty mature, scary content. In Slapface, where we met, it's the story, you're the lead of the film, and we were 12. You were 12, right?
Yes.
When we filmed Slapface. We shot in upstate New York in Fishkill. And you were fantastic in this movie. And in the movie, you essentially, your character loses his parents, is being bullied, never really dealt with that grief and that trauma that you're still experiencing. And so you befriend a witch that lives in the woods. And for a while, you guys have this bizarre friendship. It's you and this witch, this 7-foot tall woods creature.
Yeah.
And then shortly thereafter, bad things start happening, and your character has to sort of save the day, or at least try to. And you're dealing with really, really, there's violence, there's blood, there's gore, there's pretty intense emotions. And you were 12 years old. So how do you talked about it a little bit, compartmentalizing, but how do you even access those emotions when you're so young in a real way that's believable and that lends to the performance that you gave?
I think the hardest part about making something believable is to believe it yourself. And I think it's so much easier to do that when you're actually on set and in the environment and with the characters and interacting. And because it just feels so real, it's so easy to just access those types of emotions while I'm in that area and that mindset. And it's everything just feels so natural when it's all happening at once. And I think also that's kind of why I favor the fact of being actually on a set rather than self-taping. Like, I love auditioning and stuff. I love auditioning in person more than self-taping, because in person you're really interacting with other people, and it's much easier to get into that headspace. But it's a lot harder when you're in a tiny room and you have to build the environment around you. And I think because I've grown up and done so many of those self-tapes, I've figured out sort of like a method in how I can build that environment around me and imagine it. And I've just gotten so used to it that when I'm actually present in physical form on a set with props and characters, and it just feels completely real.
So that's your superpower, is your imagination. You're just able to drop right into it, make it feel real, and then when you know they yell cut, you're able to slip out of it. Are you able to slip right out of it, or sometimes does it linger?
Yes, I am, and I think that's also I guess one of my superpowers. Yeah. Because I remember anytime we would be doing like the slapping back and forth, right? And it wasn't real slapping, by the way. Yeah. It was, yeah. But in between
Shout
takes,
out to our stunt coordinator, Mac Kerr.
Yes.
Was fantastic. Yeah.
Yes. And I remember in between takes, we'd be laughing and joking. And then right when they yelled action, we'd be back into it. And I love that. I miss it. And
I was so impressed with you because it's exactly right. You and I played your older brother in the film, and I'm abusive. And so we have this game. That's why it's called Slapface, the movie, is because we sit in the living room and we slap each other, and as a form of sort of punishment and me reprimanding you. And I think that I'm doing, you know, my character, Tom, thinks he's doing the right thing. But it was abuse. Yeah. And I remember that on set, us laughing and joking and talking about comic books and everything else, and then they yell action and you slip right into it. And I had to check myself a couple times because I'm a little bit different. I have to stay into, if it's a really emotional scene, I have to stay in it a little bit more. It's a little harder for me to laugh and joke and then slip right into the emotion. And I found myself, it was so easy to just joke and play around with you and everything else. But I found myself having to like walk out of the room sometimes with you because you're so good at turning it on and off and joking around and being light and fun, but then slipping into the emotion. And I found myself having to like walk away a couple times being like, oh, I can't joke around with Auggie right now. I need to stay in it.
Yeah.
I need to stay in this headspace. So that's like a superpower that I don't have. I think I'm maybe getting better at it, but maybe from like your sitcom era, maybe, you know, like, because you're hitting the jokes and you're hitting the marks and you're hitting everything. You were so well trained from 5 years old.
Exactly. Yeah. And I feel like child actors really get like a bad rep because honestly, Disney was kind of like boot camp for me. Like I said, it trained me and it taught me everything that I knew. That's where I learned how to cry. That's where I learned how to deliver jokes. That's where I learned everything about what makes up what I am now. And it was just usually people like think of child actors as like one goes astray and then they say like, oh, all child actors are this way. And did you know in Oppenheimer there's like 12 child actors in the film? I don't know which ones, but I read it somewhere. And I thought that was so interesting because it shows that child actors do have potential and they're not just, they were just a one-hit wonder when they were a child and that's it.
You were sort of the trifecta of, you were the right age and look, you had the training of being on a sitcom, and at that point I had done a Disney sitcom before, so I knew sort of the training that it took to be, you know, on one of those sets. And then also you had the experience of The Nun, so we knew that you could hit those emotions. And we looked and looked and looked for the lead of Slapface. We looked, and you were, I think we told you this, but Jeremiah Kipp, the director, and then myself, and then I think maybe one other producer, we all made lists of like, okay, there's 10 options for this role. Who would we like to see? And you were on all of our lists just because of both The Nun and because of Girl Meets World. And then you just blew us away. So it was.
Yeah, I feel like everything that I have done in the past has sort of like had a purpose and was kind of led to the next thing. Like because of Girl Meets World, I got onto Shepherd. And then because of Shepherd, I was booked for The Nun. And funny story, actually, I just came back from set on Shepherd, and I had this bloody makeup all over my face, and I had like raggedy clothes and everything. And then I got the audition for The Nun, and my mom was like, let's just tape it right now while you're still in costume, in makeup. And I was like, let's do it. And I did it, and then I was cast for it. And then because of The Nun, I got into Slapface, so it just feels like I opened one door, and then there was another door and another door, and it just kept going.
Yeah, work begets work. One thing I like to talk about on the pod is that a lot of actors, they will say no to things, thinking, oh, I don't want to go, I don't want to be a part of that play, I don't want to be a part of that short film, I don't want to go to that film, that premiere, I don't want to do this. But it's like work begets work, and once you say yes to one thing, you don't know who's going to be on set shooting that short film, and they might be like, it's happened to me more and more where there are producers that I worked with years ago, and then they call me up and they're like, hey Mike, we're doing this movie, we have you in mind, let's do it. And who's going to say that doesn't feel good to get an offer instead of having to audition or ask for roles? It's like, no. And it also, I think it allows me to be a bit more confident with my performance because they've already seen me on set, they already know what I can do, they already know how I work. So I'm like, okay, this is somebody I'm familiar with, and they already know sort of the product they're buying when they hire me. And it's great. And it sounds like for you, it's just like you said yes to this thing. You took a risk with your audition for The Nun. It was because of The Nun that we loved you for Slapface, part of that. And then I'm sure, because of the success that you're having on all these other shows and movies, you're getting other opportunities. Mm-hmm. So, yeah, that's great. So never, for the actors that are listening, creatives that are listening, don't say no to things, especially in the beginning, if you can help it. I mean, obviously there's power in no, and there's a time and a place for everything, but try to take advantage of being on set, even if you don't see the immediate benefit, because who knows who you're going to meet
exactly
in that process. Yeah.
And I think no's from auditions as well aren't complete no's in my eyes, because you could get as far as possible, but you didn't book it, and you could still count that as a no, but I don't see that as a no, because they recognize your talent and your ability, and they know who you are, and they'll keep you in mind for future things.
Absolutely.
And it's happened before where I've gotten calls from casting agents who have been like, oh, we want to offer this thing from this thing because we've seen your work before, and everything just sort of works out in a weird, twisted way. Even if you don't see it, everything has a reason.
It really does. It really does. And I think that's it's just saying yes to every opportunity you can without knowing what the payoff is going to be. And also, there's a power in. I love what you just said about not trying to book the role, but trying to give a good audition, trying to give a good performance, because there's so many times where you'll go in and your performance is great. It's a 10 out of 10, but there are 1,000,001 reasons why you're not hired.
Exactly. It's not just whether you're good at acting or not. They have a picture in their mind of who they want their character to be. And if you don't look the part, or maybe there's other reasons, then it just won't happen. But that doesn't mean they won't remember you.
But they keep you in mind for other things.
Exactly.
And there's a freedom in that. I think there's a freedom in going in the audition room, not with, I need to book this job, but I need to show them the performance that I think is right for this character. And then whether they like it or not, whatever.
Yeah.
I think that's... And doesn't it always turn out that like the jobs that you don't care about are the ones, or that you're just like, whatever, I'm just gonna do my own thing, are the ones that you book?
Yeah.
Yeah, I remember for Crash and Bernstein, they were specifically hiring an Australian foreign exchange student or a British foreign exchange student. They were having actors that in for, with British accents and Australian accents, and I had neither. And I got the audition, and to my manager, I was like, I don't have an Australian accent. And he was like, well, you better get one. And so I remember thinking, okay, I'm not going to book this job, but I've never had an audition before where I had to have an Australian accent.
Yeah.
Like, I'm just going to, this will just be fun. It'll be a learning experience. I'll be in for the office. And my friend at the time was Australian. So I was like, hey man, go through the script with me, help me with my accent. Like, let's work on this for a couple days before I go in. And back then, now everything seems to be on self-tapes, but back then it was in person. And so we did that, and I went in and I committed. I was like, on the way there, I was practicing with the accent. My mom called me. I'm like talking to her in the accent. The park, like I get in there and like the security guard at the desk, I like was like, good eye, like how are ya? Like really like committed.
Yeah.
And then I auditioned for it, and I just had so much fun because I didn't care, because I didn't think
takes off the pressure.
It takes off the pressure. I didn't think I was going to get the job, so I was like, you know what? I'm just gonna have fun with this. Then I ended up getting the job.
Exactly.
And to your point of work begets work, when they had me audition for Cloud9 in the beginning, the character was Australian. So they had me doing an Australian accent. So same thing. I like, to the security guard, to my mom, to everybody, the casting directors, I was Australian the whole time. And so we're auditioning. So it's like the first audition, then a callback, then the chemistry read. And I remember the moment. And at this point, everybody thought I was Australian, because I was like, you know what? I'm just going to have fun with it, see what happens. And because they had seen Crash and Bernstein, work begets work. So they saw me in Crash and Bernstein as this Australian. I go in, I have these auditions, I have the callback, and then I'm having my chemistry read, and it's me and Dove Cameron, and we're doing a scene. And I do it like in the Australian accent, and I'm having fun, and I'm, you know, whatever. And then and it's like the director and the writers and the Disney execs and like the casting directors and everybody. There's 15 people in the room, and it's Dove Cameron and I. And and somebody in the room was like, Mike, we're so sorry. We need to stop you. Like, we're so sorry to put you on the spot like this, but we're just brainstorming ideas. Like, how's your American accent? And immediately I was like, it's fine. And they're like, and everybody froze. You could hear a pin drop, and they're like, where are you from? And I said, Colorado. And I think that's what booked me the job.
Yeah.
Is because I just committed and I had fun with it.
Yeah.
And Cloud9 was arguably one of the biggest, you know, things that I had done in my career. And it was not because I wanted to book the job. It was just like, they're not gonna hire me. I'm just gonna have fun. I
know. Yeah. I don't know if I told you this, but when I was auditioning for the role of Auggie on Girl Meets World, I had the stomach flu.
Oh, and wow. Okay.
So I was still getting over it, and the only reason I had it was because the rest of my family had it, and I was so young at the time, I didn't know what diarrhea was. So you can already see where the story's going. And so then my mom told me when I was little, like, oh yeah, once you get diarrhea, then then it's like gone. And I'm like, what's diarrhea? And she's like, okay, well, I'm gonna have to explain to you. And then basically when I was sitting there in the waiting room for the chemistry read with Rowan Blanchard and Ben Savage and Daniel Fishel, I went to the bathroom and then I got called in right after. And they were like, how are you doing? And I was like, good, I just had a little bit of diarrhea. And there was a huge table of executives and directors and all the creators, right? And I just sat there and was like, oh yeah, I just had a little bit of diarrhea. And they laughed their asses off. I'm pretty sure that's how I booked it.
Yeah, because you were just so matter of fact, and you had that childlike innocence.
Exactly. Exactly.
That's amazing. Oh, so I wouldn't recommend starting every audition like that, but for that moment, it was great.
Yeah.
Okay, so you said that you like in-person auditions more than self-tapes. Is that sort of across the board? You just like going in more than self-tapes for every job?
I love both, but I mean, there's perks of both options, because with self-tapes you get to do it so many times and you don't have the pressure of like, oh, I gotta get it right this one time, and you can do it however many times you want and there's no limit, and you can just try any sort of like iteration. Like, you have no boundaries. You can do whatever you want. And I think that part is just so freeing. And I love self-taping for that reason. But I also love going in person because, like I said, there's that sort of human-to-human connection that you can't get from being in a room by yourself. But I think both have their perks, both have their cons. But yeah,
I agree with you. I think both have their pros and cons. I feel like I do miss. There were some offices that were so warm and so fun, and I do miss going in there and and saying hello and how's your day and like making that human connection with these people who care about what they do. They're in the industry. They love actors. They're rooting for you to do a good job. Who doesn't want to go in there and meet their cheerleaders?
Exactly.
Right? And so I do really miss that. I don't miss sitting in traffic.
Yeah.
I also don't miss the waiting rooms. Like I used to hate with auditions, driving somewhere, parking, going and sitting in a tiny little room with 10 other people that look just
exactly
like you.
The same.
And you can hear somebody else's audition through the wall, so you can't help but compare yourself to what they're doing. And
exactly.
You're like trying to listen to music and drown it all out. And for me, that's not acting. That's like maintaining sanity while you're ready to perform.
Exactly.
I feel like self-tapes are a little... I love the freedom it gives you because now I can actually go on vacation and just pack a ring light in my suitcase and actually...
all you need is a ring light and a phone. That's it.
Ring light and a phone, yeah. So I do love that. The freedom that it gives you. I feel like you don't have to be on call all the time like a doctor. Like somebody calls you and you're like, oh, I have to go to the office. Like an actor, somebody calls you, you're like, oh, I have an audition tomorrow. Like I have to go there.
Yeah.
So I mean, I don't know about you, but I canceled so many vacations, family vacations, trips, everything because I had a really important audition.
And I think that's one of like the good things about COVID is it sort of created that self-taping like idea. And I actually kind of do like it more than going in person because like you said, there's that whole hassle of like the entire day is dedicated to a couple seconds inside of a room with a couple people. And it's just there's so much anticipation that it's like you said, it's not acting anymore. It's just maintaining sanity. Yeah. And
also like a self-tape is closer to, in my opinion, acting because you can change the angle, you can change the lighting, you can change your performance, you can try different things, and that's what you're going to be doing on set. You're going to try something and then you're going to adjust, and you're going to try something and you're going to adjust, and you're able to send them in a performance that is a little, in my opinion, a bit closer to what they'll be getting on set from you. Exactly. And so I think it's just more fun that way. But also the competition is way higher because everybody gets to do that. So much. It's because it's so accessible. There's so many more people who are going to be auditioning for roles, and it's a lot higher demand. And so it's a lot harder to book from a self-tape rather than going in person. But yeah. So on Slapface, I remember you would always be pulled aside to do between our takes to do or setups to do your schoolwork. And now I read somewhere, I think that you started taking college classes at 14. Is that true? That's true. I graduated from high school at 14. Okay. Because in 10th grade, I took something called the California High School Proficiency Exam. And basically that allowed me to sort of graduate and test out of high school. And I passed. And it allows me to work on set without there needing to be a set teacher, because if you're under 18, you need a set teacher, and there was on Slapface, but obviously I didn't graduate at the time. But now I'm doing I'm at a junior college and I'm in my final semester, and I've already applied for UCLA, and I'm hoping to transfer in the fall. I don't know if I got accepted yet, but I'm just hoping. Hopefully, fingers crossed. Yeah. So can you talk a little bit about navigating that for any younger actors that are listening, or the parents of actors, young actors that are listening, that are worried that, at some point they or their child are going to have to choose between education, going to college, and being an actor? It sounds like you're doing both. I think it works hand in hand. Okay. Because
anything that I get from acting can be put toward college financially. And I think it just goes hand in hand so well. And I think also because of my acting, I was able to pursue in my studies more. And I wouldn't have graduated at 14. I would have done the rest of my high school years, and then I would have went to some other college, and that would have been it. But because of acting, I've been able to reach higher goals and attain.
You're pushing yourself a bit more.
Yes,
right?
exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. Because when you're on set and you're going back and forth between scenes and school, you need to make sure you have a teacher that works with you. And I've had experiences in the past where I've had teachers that didn't really work with me, but I've had teachers, especially the one from Slapface actually, that really was able to work with me and was able to help me excel in my studies. And because of them, I wouldn't have been where I am today, in all honesty.
Yeah, without them, you wouldn't have been able to balance both of those things and even known that it was possible to do both. Yeah. So are you going to school for acting, or are you going to school for something else?
I'm hoping to take acting classes maybe in UCLA, but I'm planning on majoring in English and then maybe minoring in film. And then if I could double minor, maybe acting, or I don't know. I'll have to see where it goes. But I love anything that has to do with the industry, like whether it's screenwriting or directing, cinematography, anything. I'm all up for it.
I love that. So you're giving yourself the freedom. You're taking junior college classes right now to prepare for school so that you can get through your degree more quickly. So you're getting the gen ed stuff out of the way.
Yes.
So yes, I mean, that's basically what anybody does, regardless of their major. They're like, okay, let me try to take a few college classes in high school. Let me try to graduate. Let me try to prepare. And then once I get to college, I'll figure out what I want to do. You're kind of giving yourself that freedom.
Yeah, people think that their lives start only after college, but I disagree. I think there's so much room for being able to pursue what you want. And I think because of college and school in general, it can help you excel in anything. And I just think it's such a powerful tool to be able to take advantage of.
Yeah, that's great. Okay, so you've grown up in front of the camera. You've been on 1,000,001 shows. Do you have any favorite moments or wacky fun moments on set?
I gotta think. There were a couple times on Slapface. This isn't wacky or anything, but I remember one time we were in the middle of the woods, right? And I forgot what scene we were filming, but it was something with the witch. And there was a snake, and it was the first time that I've seen a snake in the flesh. Mm-hmm. And everyone was like, "Don't move, don't move!" And then we had someone come over and like poke it away. We were just all kind of sitting there on standby, like.
Yeah, with the snake.
Yeah,
we did a lot on that movie. We were in the woods. It was some nights were okay, but some nights were freezing cold.
Oh,
and
yeah,
you and Mirabelle with those space heaters and the blankets and everything, and you did such a good job at not making it obvious that you were freezing in the scene, because there were like these intimate moments and nice little conversations with you guys.
I remember at night we had a little scene at night where we're talking to each other, and it's the scene right before I rush over back to the house with the rat.
Yeah. Yep, that's the scene I was thinking of when I was saying that.
And we both had runny noses, and we were sitting there like, ooh. But we got through it, and it was worth it in the end. And I'm really proud of what it's become. And just seeing it like out there in the world now is just so surreal.
Yeah, so that was the scene where you ran in the house with the rat. I remember exactly, and I think that the runny nose kind of worked because it felt like you were not necessarily crying, but really emotional. Anyway, so it's one more example of you just using what was happening in the scene. Don't you love that, those little happy accidents on set where
I know
something happens, you'll stub your toe and then it goes and you just have to stay in it, and then people will watch it and they'll be like, wow, you were so intense in that moment. What was your motivation? What were you thinking?
I stubbed my toe.
Yeah, I stubbed my toe.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And I remember there was this. It's the final scene actually, and I don't want to give any spoilers, but I'm crying, right? And this was just completely on accident, but I was crying in that moment, right? And I look to the camera for the final like shot, and then a tear just rolls down my face. And I remember thinking the whole time, like, don't smile, that was perfect.
Yeah.
Don't smile.
Yeah, you do. So okay, so that's a good point. So it's a balance of being truthful and having these emotions and everything else, and then also knowing enough about the technical aspect to where when that tear rolls down your cheek, you know not to move your head.
I'm like, that was perfect. Don't do anything. Don't mess it up.
And it was so good. And I think that was your mother, or your idea to look into the camera for that final shot. Yeah. And it was so powerful and so great. Because in that moment, your character has, without any spoilers, but it's been long enough. People should have seen it already.
Yeah.
But like to
you can see it on Shudder if you haven't.
You can see it on Shudder and Amazon and streaming and everything else. Mm-hmm. But to have that realization in the end, your character just sort of realizes something. And so, like, I think that intimate moment of looking into the lens was so important.
I know.
And it was you and your confidence as an actor and your experience as an actor to be able to make that suggestion on set and feel comfortable with making that suggestion and being like, hey, let's try this. And I think that that's something that comes with experience. Yeah. Most people, it takes them their older acting career, their adult acting career to sort of build that confidence. But the fact that you've been doing it since you were 4, you basically have all those years under your belt anyway. And you're like, we're going to try this. Okay, so you seem to have a really great grasp on this whole entertainment industry, crazy industry, and you just feel so well adjusted. What are some things that don't have anything to do with acting that you sort of do to maintain your sanity, to maintain your happiness, to maintain, to keep your tank full, so to speak?
I remember, so we were talking about comic books and drawing on set, right? I still draw, and I love it. And it's sort of a newer hobby that I'm kind of developing, or I've kind of found in myself, is writing. And I'm currently writing a novel with 2 of my best friends, Dominique Pexa and Dara McLeod. And we're already on chapter 17, and we have 200 pages, and we're just chugging along. And I love every second of it because it feels like, being an actor just like allows you to become characters and like I said, fulfill your inner child. And I think anytime that I'm not on set, I'm able to put that into my writing because it's a fantasy novel, so anything can happen. And so we've just kind of done everything we can to just like fulfill that sort of like that freedom, and we can do anything. We can put anything we want in this book.
I was gonna ask, or I was gonna kind of make a joke when you were like, yeah, I might go to school for writing, and I might, and I was making the joke that you've been on a million shows and you've been so successful so far in your career, and I was gonna sort of be like, oh, what's next? You gonna write a book? But you're actually writing a book.
I am actually writing a book.
Wow, that's great. And you always, I remember being on set and you would draw your own comics and write the stories and everything. So you've always been a storyteller. You've always been a creative.
And I've just been able to harness that in other ways.
Yeah. Okay. So I love to end the podcast with this because I feel like, the purpose of this is to educate, obviously, and inspire. If you could look back and tell young Auggie, who's trying to get his footing in the industry, trying to start out, trying to audition, he's in the grind. He maybe has one credit or something under his belt. Maybe if the Girl Meets World audition didn't happen, but you knew you wanted to be an actor and you were in it right now, what is one piece of advice that you would give young Auggie?
I think what a lot of people think when trying to start in the industry is like you need a really, really, really good agent who's like really popular. And I don't think that's the case, because the only reason I was able to get that audition for Girl Meets World was because I had a smaller agent, lesser known, but she believed in me and she took a chance. And because of that chance I was able to land that role. And people don't realize, like, if you have someone who really is just in touch with you and connects with you, then it's much more powerful than any sort of popularity. And it just works out better in the end, because you just have so much better experience overall, and it's so much more personal as well.
Yeah, so having a team that believes in you, not necessarily the team that has the most recognizable
the flashy
name,
lights,
the flashy lights,
exactly.
everything else. I think that's great, and I just because I've never mentioned this yet on the pod, I think in theory, and let me know if you agree with this, is that managers typically are easier to get, and they will give you more individualized attention in the beginning, especially, and they'll look at your headshots, they'll recommend acting classes, whatever. Agents are more just about auditions. Let me get you in the room. And then, of course, there are smaller managers, there are larger managers, there are smaller agencies, there are larger agencies. Is that what you've sort of noticed? Would you agree with that?
I would, and I've switched between agents and managers plenty of times throughout my career, but my goal is never to become more popular by any means. My goal is to just put out my art, and having a supportive team that really wants that for me. And because of that, I'm able to do what I love, which is acting. And I just think that's so much more important than like, oh, I want to be as famous as so-and-so. And yeah, no,
I think that is. I think you have the right mindset. I think that one of the reasons you're so well adjusted now is because you're not doing it for the fame. You're not doing it for the followers. You're doing it for the art. And I feel like there is a difference in this industry of people that are doing it for the art. They do it for the storytelling. They do it because they want to create things that they're proud of. And then on one hand, and then on the other hand, there are people that just do it to be famous, quote unquote famous, whatever that means to them.
Exactly.
And I feel like that is such an unhappy place to be, and you're setting yourself up for failure, because it will never be enough if that's your mindset.
Yeah, because you're just constantly comparing yourself to like, oh, but so-and-so friend has done this and this and this, and so-and-so has done this and this and this. Why aren't I? But I think what's important to just keep in mind is that everybody has their own path, and their journey is not your journey, or my journey is not your journey is not my journey. Everybody has their own path and their own journey that they are going to take that's personalized for them, and everything will work out if you believe in it.
Yeah, having faith and owning your own journey, and realizing that your path is different than somebody else's path. I think that's great. I think, and also so hard for us to do in the age of social media, just not compare ourselves to other people.
Exactly.
But yeah, okay. Well, I could talk to you for another hour, but I don't want to keep you. Thank you, everybody, for tuning in to the Actors Agenda. If they want more information on you, Mr. August Maturo, where can they find you?
Anywhere by the username August Maturo, AUGUST MATURO, TikTok, Instagram, Twitter. I'm everywhere. all the same username.
Cool. So that's if you want more information on August Maturo. You just tuned into the Actors Agenda. Make it a great day.